There we go. So we have Ibiyemi here today, and Ibiyemi is a senior business analyst, certified practitioner, pardon me, in business analysis, mentor, facilitator, women in business analysis, and also a top business analyst voice, which was given to her on LinkedIn. So we have a professional that is quite robust in our field, and we are here to learn from her. She's gonna dish out a lot to us today. So, Ibiyemi, over to you. You can introduce yourself proper now.
I think you've already done the onion. So
Right.
you need to stop sharing before I share.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yeah, there you go. You have it.
Okay. I think I'm sharing now. Okay, before I go into presentation, like move to my PowerPoint. How's everyone?
Yeah.
How are we all doing today? Hello, everyone.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm
I know
fine.
you're good.
Doing
I want to
great.
hear from others. Let me
Yeah.
stop presenting for a moment, because when you're presenting, it kind of gives this
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Saraya says she's good.
Every other person, how are we all doing? Everyone is quiet.
Do you?
I'm
Okay.
good,
Somebody is giving
Ibiyemi.
thumbs up there.
I'm pronouncing your word perfectly.
You can
Libya.
just call me Ibi.
Ibi. Okay, that's fine. Ibi.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you
Then
for coming us and giving a great session. Thank you.
no
Okay.
worries. Thanks. Okay, every other person is giving thumbs up.
Yes. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay, let's go right into it. Just gonna share again. Sorry about that. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen,
I'm not
but
gonna be able
I
to.
think okay. Okay. Do you want to have the full screen as your slideshow?
Yeah, I want to put it on screen, full screen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not even clicking. I don't know why.
Just go to the top where you have slideshow.
Yeah, this is where I just normally do it. The wine cup, and it gives it to me.
Do
But
you want to stop sharing for a bit?
yeah, I
Then
think there's a problem.
yeah, just stop sharing. Then
Let
you
me
can
stop sharing. Well, let me
exactly.
try it without sharing and see if it works.
Yeah.
Okay, let me close my PowerPoint. I think it's lagging. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
I feel like I've had my system open for ages, so it's probably temperamental. Okay. Okay, I've just closed it down. So I'm going to open PowerPoint again. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it works now. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay, good. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank
Oh,
you.
good. Because as business analysts, we just need to always talk, isn't it? Because we're always at the center of it. Okay, so as David has said, my name is Ibiyemi Fasipe Akinfe, and I'm a senior business analyst in the public sector in the UK, and I'm also the CEO of Nexus Edge Consulting Limited. So today we're talking about solution evaluation. Okay, and for me, when I want to start any presentation or any class, because I'm very used to taking classes, I always like with a bit of a story, to like draw what we're trying to do, like bring it from a very layman term, and then have a basic understanding of what we're doing before we go right into what the textbook says, literally. So when you hear solution evaluation, you're thinking about, I buy something. Is it going to work for me? Is it going to give me the value that I really want? Okay. David, sorry, are you recording the session?
Yes, you
Okay, cool.
are.
Okay. So yeah, is it going to give me the value that I want? When you buy, imagine you buy a new phone, for example, And you have this old phone that is kind of old, maybe it's broken, the screen is broken, but it kind of does the job. All your contacts are intact, your WhatsApp, your Instagram, your emails, everything works perfectly. And you know how we like to cling to the old things and we don't want to let it go. We kind of want to like retain those things because they're very precious to us and we don't want the new one. That's how it is, okay? So you buy a new phone and you're checking, before I ditch this old phone and give it to a family member or throw it in the bin, is this new phone actually working for me? Is this new phone fit for purpose? Is it doing exactly what I intended it to do? Or do I need to send it back to where I bought it from and give them back and get a new one? So that's how solution evaluation is. We're evaluating that what we have, as a business analyst, we are always at the center of procurement, we're at the center of building a new solution, we're at the center of something. We're all about change and we always deliver solution to our end users, right? So you want to see, is this working exactly how I said it's going to work? Okay, so that's what solution evaluation is all about. So just think about it as, I buy something, I do something, is it fit for purpose and does it exactly do what we intended it to do? Okay, so just moving on from there, what we're going to cover today is, introduce solution evaluation, talk about what the core concepts are, the tasks that are involved, the technique and tools, and we'll have like a discussion and just have like Q&A session. So I want everyone to follow through. If you have any questions, let me know, and then we can take the questions, because the aim of this session is to get you up to speed on what solution evaluation is all about. It's a very key skill and it's very important for you to understand what it's all about, because when you go to an interview, for any reason, you would be tested to see how you've implemented a solution. You would be tested to see how you wouldn't buy something that doesn't work for the organization. Okay, so it's really, really important, and it's a very important topic for you to consider. Okay, so just moving on. Before I move on, does anyone have any question? Because I can't see the Google Meet thing. So do you have any question before I go on?
If I see any question, I'm just gonna pop up right there. Then I would
Okay.
read them out to you to make it easier for you as well.
Yeah, sorry, I should have used two screens.
Right.
Okay, so like I said earlier on, it's a very important and it's very crucial for you to understand solution evaluation. As you can see, that is a very crucial part of business analysis. And like I said earlier on, it focuses on implementing solutions and seeing that they meet the needs and deliver value. Okay, so as business analysts, we are at the center of it all, basically. And when there's a new solution, we work with our product managers, our product owners, our project managers, and all of that. We speak to our stakeholders, our end users. We gather requirements to see what do they really want. Now, a lot of organizations are moving towards building a product that meets the needs, that it's user-centric. So you hear things like user-centric. So they don't want you to build a solution and your end users themselves, this is not the stakeholders now, the end users, the people that are going to use it. The person that is in the customer service unit and is actually taking the calls and using the solution. The person that is in sales unit and is using the solution to track sales, not the people that are just at the top level and they just stakeholders that are impacted by what you do, the people that would really, really use it. So our users are very, very important, right? And that's why we must evaluate our solution, regardless of if it's a procurement or if it's something you built yourself as a business analyst. Okay, so it describes the task. So when we go into BABOK, the solution evaluation describes the task that you would do to ensure that this solution that you have built is actually fit for purpose and it's not something that your users will complain about. Okay, so a lot of organizations have what we call legacy systems. You remember when I talked about the phone, your old phone? Now, when you get to an organization, you hear things like legacy, legacy, legacy. It means that they have an old solution that's been in the business for ages. It might be that, the security is not being compromised, or the solution is just too old and cannot cope. It can't cope with, you know, everything that they're doing within the organization. And that's why they're trying to hire you as a business analyst, as a product manager, as a product owner, okay, to come and build something that is new, build it on new technology, but they always still want to cling to the old one, which is the legacy one, because it feels like the legacy system has been through tough times with them. But then if you evaluate your solution and it really, really works, means that you've gathered your requirements, you've, you know, validated the requirements, and it's fit for purpose, then you see them turning off the switch on the old one. But it's always a very tough period for them to turn it off. Okay, so that's why we must always evaluate our solutions and ensure that it is fit for purpose. All right, so part of what we do is to assess the performance of the solution, to see that it gives value, to know, to recommend removal of barriers. So if maybe you validate with your stakeholders and there just seems to be a problem, you don't overlook it. Because if you overlook it and then you finally implement the solution, then there's noise everywhere. Then it means that you've not actually done your job as a good business analyst. Okay, so value is very important. And one part of our job as business analysts is to give value. Okay, so your solution evaluation would, in the BABOK guide, would show you the task that you need to do, okay, by identifying the limitations, anything that would allow value not to be realized, you make sure that you try to remove the blocker. All right, so just moving on. So this is the introduction. Again, I always love it when people understand business analysis topics from layman terms, first of all, before growing into the major terminology or buzzword, as we call it in business analysis. Because if you go straight into the buzzword, you wouldn't understand it 100%. But in your task, in your daily life, you do these things. You know, when you do something new, you check if it's fit for purpose. You are evaluating the situation. You're evaluating that this thing works for you. So it's just the same. At work, we get a new solution. Okay, either we procure it, that's by doing procurement activities, or we build it. So we test it at every stage, and there are different ways that we can test it. So as we go on in the session, you see the different ways that you can test out your solution. So I'm just going to move on and assume that there are no questions in the chat. Okay, so when we're doing solution evaluation, we can do it at different stages of development. All right, so we could do it by prototyping. I don't know if everyone is familiar with prototyping. Okay, but prototyping is when you have something that looks like what your final product will look like, but it's not your final product, but it's just like a replica of what it will look like. It's a cheaper way. So rather than building something big and spending £1 million, organizations want you to start small, start agile, you know, start incrementally. So you start with something small and then you test it. Is it actually fit for purpose? Once you go through the rounds of testing, you go around the loop and everything, then you're sure that, you know, you've gone through the loop, you've incorporated changes, you're obeying policies, all the legal requirements, compliance is being obeyed, then you put in the money and you get your developer to actually start coding. All right, so we can evaluate our solution by prototypes. So recently at work, we're trying to do some development of a solution, and we started from prototypes, working prototypes that are actually clickable. And we presented these prototypes to our stakeholders, okay, different types of stakeholders. So we gather this feedback from this stakeholder, we implement the changes, we go back to the next stakeholder, we go through the testing again, just as it would be in the real tool. We just prototype it. And then once we do those round of prototyping, testing, we call it usability testing sessions. Once you go round the loop of that, you then get to the point where you're confident. The reason we do that is we don't want our end users to feel dissatisfied. We don't want, as business analysts, you don't ever want to do something and then your stakeholders have, you know, their job is at stake or their operations is not running smoothly because you've introduced a solution. So it's very important for you to test and validate with them. Okay, another way we do it is by doing proof of concepts, right? So proof of concept, again, similar to prototyping, but proof of concept is you do something is a higher level of a prototype. You do something, a pilot, you don't do it full blown. So say you want to do something for 1,000 users. A proof of concept will do it for 10 users and test with the 10 users before moving on to the full-blown project. And that is agile. So imagine you own a water bottle company and you're new at what you do, and you have to create, say, 1,000 bottles in your first iteration. Now, if you want to do a proof of concept, you'd create 10 water bottles. You would give maybe family and friends to test it for you and say, how does this water, how does it taste? Then when they test it for you, they say, oh, wow, it's fantastic. Or they say, no, 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 scrap it. You need to do it again. So imagine you have spent all your resources and you've done 1,000 bottles of water. What do you think that is going to look like? It's going to be a waste of money. So that's why a lot of organizations want you to start small now. You know, waterfall is not really popular anymore. A lot of organizations still use waterfall, but agile is now very popular because it kind of saves money, any risk. Because imagine you've done 1,000 bottles of water and it's just total rubbish. Okay, so that's a proof of concept, something that is really small. The pilot of what you wanted to do in a full-blown thing, you do it small, you test it with real users, you get real feedback, and then you iterate on it, and then you make it better in the next iteration. Okay, because at the end of the day, you want to give value. Okay, another way you can also test is in pilot or beta releases. So I don't know if we're all aware, but we have something called Discovery Alpha Beta Live. So before you get to live is when, you know, Instagram would release a feature to you and you can use it. It means that it's in live environment. But before it gets to live environment, it would be in beta. So in the beta stage, we can still test that something actually works. You know, in beta, some organizations decide to release a beta thing, put it in live environment, but it's not full blown yet because they want to gather feedback. You know, the other day I was using Canva and ChatGTP, and Canva said, this is in beta. Now, so they're trying to tell me this is not going to work in its full potential, but it's going to work. So they want to get your feedback. When you actually use it, does it actually give you what you want? Okay. And all of these things are ways to evaluate your solution. You don't want to waste all your resources. You don't want to use up your staff, everything, and something does not work. So all of these things is what will help you to ensure that you're delivering value to your stakeholders, your end users, and all of that. So another way is to do it in operational releases. So it's all the same. All of these examples I have given is like doing something in incremental, iteration, agile type of thing. Not give the full value, boom, and then it's not fit for purpose. So always remember that when you're evaluating solution, you can do it in different stages of the development. Now, once a solution is done fully and is in live environment, it's very difficult. It's still a way you can gather feedback, but your users already have mixed opinions about what you've delivered. Okay, if you would lose income, you would lose income because of that. Now, a company like Twitter or Instagram would not just give you a feature in live environments if they haven't properly evaluated. Okay, so when you hear solution evaluation, it doesn't mean that we're testing the whole thing. It might just mean that they release just one feature, you know, just the feature to maybe allow you to create reels or videos, for example, on Instagram. That is a project. As small as it looks to you on the outside world, is a project. Okay, so they would have gone through round of testing, they would have done proof of concept, they would have, you know, sometimes you go online, they are inviting you to come and test a feature or test a tool, you get paid for doing that, things like that. They are trying to gather feedback from you before they do the full-blown development and rollout of the products. Okay, so these are the different stages that you can evaluate your solution to see if your solution is actually fit for purpose and if it meets the needs of your users. Okay, so I'll assume that there's still no question and then I'll go on as well. Okay, so in terms of the task and the concepts that you would do in solution evaluation, okay, so like I said earlier on, you measure your solution's performance, and there are different ways you can do it. You can do it via your non-functional requirements as well, because it's not only the functional bits that we evaluate, we also evaluate the non-functional requirements. And just in case everyone is not familiar with non-functional requirements, there are requirements that they're always built from the back end. So things like performance, things like scalability. You know how millions of users can be on Instagram at the same time without it crashing or something. That's what we mean by scalability. Building a system that can, that can scale up to the amount of users that are on it. And these are things that are built from the back end. You can always improve your scalability from the back end. So you can measure your solution performance from the interface, which is more of the functional requirements, and you can also measure it from the back end, which is your non-functional requirements. So if you're going to access the performance from the interface or functional requirements, you do this with your end users, and you can use any of the stages that I talked about earlier on to evaluate with your stakeholders. Okay, so what you're trying to do there is to make sure that it aligns with the goals and objectives of the project, because all organizations have what we call goals and objectives at the program level, at the portfolio level, or even at the project level. Now, the program level wants to see what you're doing at the tactical level. How does it align with what we want at the portfolio level? So it could be that, they want to reduce a percentage of something at the portfolio level. Now, each of the projects within the portfolio would report into the portfolio to say, okay, based on the task we're doing, the projects we're delivering, the features we're rolling out next week, this is what we think would help us to meet. So we measure it against the KPI to see that what we're working on at the tactical level meets up with the strategic level. So these are very important things that we need to consider as well, okay, in terms of evaluating the solution. Now, another thing is because aside from measuring the solution performance, you also analyze the performance as well. As I said in the previous points, you can measure it against your KPIs. Now, everything you're doing is always being measured. You don't know that they're measuring you, but everything you're doing is always being measured. So the little tasks you do as a business analyst, as a product manager, or as a project manager, everything should, at the end goal for it, should meet the strategic level KPIs as well. Okay, and the needs that has been set by the organization. So you have a new project, you go into the new project, you kick off your requirements gathering. You can do your requirements gathering by any elicitation technique that you need to use at the time based on the sensitivities of your project. So once you gather the needs and you understand it, you then go back, because you have your needs gathered in maybe a spreadsheet or any tool, Jira or any tool you're using. And then you need to go back at some point to see, okay, this is the interface. I'm testing. I'm analyzing the performance of this solution. Does it actually meet the needs that my stakeholders told me before you go back to present? Because sometimes there are some things that you could have picked up yourself, and then when you go to the stakeholders, it looks like a very minor thing and you should have picked up yourself as well. That's why sometimes as business analysts, we also act as testers. We test the solution as well against our test scenarios. Okay, so of course you want to see the limitations. What are the limitations of your product? Is it able to scale up? Do we need to do something? Is it performing as we said it's going to perform? Okay, is it crashing when I tell about 50 people to test it for us? Because you have a scope of the project that you're working on or the solution you're working on. You have an idea of what you want it to do based on your high-level requirements or your business requirements. So when you investigate it, you would see if there are loopholes and if there are limitations. And then you need to correct it before you release it to your stakeholders and your end users. Of course, you also access it at an enterprise level as well. You might be working with your solutions architect. He understands the architectural view of the organization. So in terms of this solution, how does it integrate into other solutions within the organization in an architectural view? Okay, so all of these things are things we do for real at work to see that what we're releasing to the business is fit for purpose. in our implementation planning. We need to be sure. Is it going to realize the full value? Why should we tell our stakeholders to turn off a solution when we're not really sure? What's our the trust level we have in this solution? Is it going to work as much as we said it was going to work? So these are things that we carry on doing, in our job as business analysts. And of course, you can also recommend actions to increase the solution value. It might mean that you just need to increase the budget, you need some other developers on board, and all of those things. At the end of the day, no one wants to invest £5 million in a solution and doesn't get value from it. So yeah, in terms of evaluating a solution, these are some of the tasks that you need to do. You need to measure the performance, and I say you can do that by measuring the functional and non-functional requirements. The functional requirements are things more of the interface. I went to Google Meet just now. I shared my screen. All of these things are functional. It's responding back to me. I turned on my camera. I can mute myself. I can unmute myself. All of these things are functional. Now, when you talk about the non-functional, when I try to do all of these things, they all have a non-functional element to them. It performed quickly. It's the uptime is probably 99.999%. Okay, so all of these things are non-functional requirements on the back end. Every feature you see would have a non-functional element to it from the back end. Okay, and then another thing you do is you assess the solution limitations. What are the constraints? Is it going to limit anything? Is everything working well? Do I need to think about a compliance? If I release this feature, am I going to get in trouble? No organization wants to get in trouble. So as business analysts, compliance is really, really important. So we consult with people from compliance to be sure that data privacy and all of these things are being respected, because nobody wants to get fined. So yeah, then you access the enterprise limitations as well. You can work with your other subject matter experts in your team, like your solutions architect, because he has that enterprise view more than you have it. Okay, and then you also recommend actions. It might not be you that recommends the actions, it might be your other team members, but we all work as a team. And that's why we speak to ourselves every day to see if there are blockers or to see how we can support ourselves on the job. Okay, so that's the core concepts of evaluating a solution. So these other slides just break it down by each of them. Okay, so you measure the performance of your solution. So I mentioned KPIs earlier on. Okay, so if you're starting a project, so KPI is more of a product manager's job. So he'll set KPIs that say, okay, percentage by, maybe like you work in an organization where your customers always call in to complain about something. Now, and that has been identified as a problem because it's probably making you lose money. It's making some of your customers to drop off on the journey. No one wants to go to a solution, trying to do something, to buy something, and it's not just working. So they go to your competitor. Okay, so we set up KPIs to say, okay, by X amount of percent, the contacts that the customer service people get should reduce by X amount of percentage. Now that's a KPI. Then we measure it as we progress. So that's a way to measure your solution's performance. So for example, I'm working on a new project and my product manager has already set up KPIs to say, by 6 months down the line, we'll come back to these KPIs to measure it. So X amount, maybe like 5 KPIs. We go on our project, we do everything we're doing. When we release the products to the market, we put it in the live environment. We need to come back and check on our KPIs and measure it. What we said, is it actually the case? Did the customer service calls increase by 100%? Or did it reduce by 50%? So if it reduced by 50%, it means that our KPI is healthy. But if it doesn't meet it, then it means that there's a problem. It means that the solution we have created is not fit for purpose. Because if we create something for a customer service person and it's not just working, the calls are even more, it means that the journey is complicated and we need to revisit it. So we don't always want things like this to happen. So that's why we keep evaluating the solutions before we release it to the target market. Okay, so of course we're measuring it because of value. We want to ensure No one wants to do a business. You might work for NHS, for example. NHS is a very big organization. You might think they don't care, they don't want the value because it's big. You think, oh, I can hide, they won't know what I'm doing. But you're wrong, because as big as NHS is, they still want to give value. Okay, so there was COVID-19 at some point. If you remember that there were some apps that were created for you to use to do some tracking and all of those things, or to test your COVID and all of that. All of these things are things that were rolled out. And it's people like me and you, business analysts, that worked on things like that. What are the needs? What do we think end users would typically want to see in an app like this? You don't want to complicate things. I'm not feeling fine. Someone has got COVID-19. Why would I want to click, click, click? You want to reduce the amount of times that they click. So when you're creating a solution, you have your users in mind. You speak to your users, you test with them, you see that it's actually fit for purpose before you release it into the live environment. So the little task you do as business analysts, by working with your stakeholders, they add up to the solution being fit for purpose. Okay, so the next one is, assessing the limitations of the solution. So when you actually test the solution, are there limitations? Is there any problem? Okay, is it giving you the full value, or is just giving you a partial value? Because your end users, the truth is that if you don't give them something that meets the full value, and because they always resist change, everyone likes to work in a certain way that they used to work in. So if you reduce the value, they'll be the first set of people to shout. I'm telling you. So that's why when we start a new project, we do our stakeholder matrix. We put the people that we want to keep engaging with. The reason why we do that is because they will be the loudest voice. And if there's too much of them, then there's a problem. It means that we've not done our job properly. So we always want to gain their buy-in and put them on side. Okay, so if you find a limitation, you investigate the problems and how to resolve it. You test the prototype with your end users and they're shouting. I remember when we tested the prototype with some of our users, and this was the exact statement. This is not going to work for us. That was exactly what they said. Now imagine we've done the full solution, and we go to them and they say, and we didn't do testing, we didn't do evaluation and all that. That's exactly what they're going to say. And these people are senior stakeholders that use the solution. They will just tell you to your face, and then you're like, what am I going to do? But guess what? It's just a prototype. We can throw away the prototype and we can do something else. So that's why it's always good to do it from, starting small before going into full-blown implementing a solution. So when they told us that this is not going to work for us, well, okay, fine. What do you want? So we co-create with them. What exactly do you want? Then they will now be relaxed with you and say, okay, now we're not saying what you're doing is totally wrong, even though they said this is not going to work for you. But then they change their minds to say, okay, you've got this here, why not put this here? You've got this here, why not put this here? So here, now they're co-creating with you. They are working with you to realize value. Because at the end of the day, we want to satisfy our end users. Case closed. We want to satisfy them. Okay, they are the people that will use this thing 100%. So they have to be happy. Okay, so once you investigate the problems of your solution, you try to find a way around it with your team members. Of course, we don't work in silos. We work with our team. Okay, so you also do an impact assessment. If I release this solution, what is going to be the impact? Is it going to affect operations, or can I just release just one feature? So sometimes we release a solution that just has one feature so that they can carry on using the old solution and use it side by side. Now, depending on how bad the old solution is, sometimes they have to just switch it off because the security is going to be compromised, and you don't want the data of your customers to go out there in the market. So you have to switch it off. But sometimes it's still manageable. It's got like a year, so we can still manage it. So then we use it simultaneously. So once we release one feature, it works well. We do all of our business analysis, evaluation, and everything. It works fine. Now it's now in the team. We do all the change management, train them, do manuals, guide them, and all of that. Now it's fine. After that feature, you keep releasing the features in iterations. So it just depends on your organization and how they're used to working. Some organizations don't really do iterations, they just do the big bang. Believe it or not, it still happens. Big bang, and they release it and train the users and get them on board. So you do impact assessment to see, you have a couple of questions, you get the answers, and then you know, okay, this is not going to have a lot of impact on the job or on the value as well. So impact assessment is very important. It helps you to see the limitations because you see how big the impact of what you're doing is or how small what you're doing is. Sometimes we want to release a solution. Rather than releasing it to 100 people, you can release it to 10 people. So then the impact is not going to be huge, and it's not going to be a showstopper. Okay, so let's moving on to the next one. Now, you did this one for the solution. Now, doing it for the enterprise is very, very, very important. All organizations, all enterprises, they all have their mission, their vision, their strategy, their long-term strategy, and everyone knows where they want to be at X amount of time. Okay, so if I do this, what is it going to look like to the organization? Is it going to affect who we are? Is it going to affect what we identify as? Okay, if I don't consider accessibility in my solution and my organization is showing that they're accessible, diversity, everything, but then what you've built does not directly represent who the organization says they are. So we always have to assess our solution based on the organization or the enterprise. Now, there's a lot of technical components as well. Like I said earlier on, many times when we do a solution, we need to integrate it with other solutions. Now, the solutions architect is more of the person that does things like this, or the tech lead, or whoever they call themselves in any organization. Okay, so they look at it, what you're working on, can it integrate or can it not integrate? Now, if it cannot integrate, then there's a problem. So before we release all these things to the outside market, these are the many things that we do in the background to make sure that what we're doing is fit for purpose. Not only fit for purpose, it represents the organization. Okay, imagine you go to a website and they say they are this, they are that, they are this, then that. But then they release a solution and it's like, it doesn't represent who they say they are. So it's very important as well. You get a job as a business analyst. Part of what you want to consider is what's the culture? How do they practice here? Imagine you're coming from another organization as a business analyst and you get a job in a new place. You don't want to force down the way you work in a previous organization in a new organization. So it's the same thing. You understand the culture, you understand the operations, the stakeholder interest. All stakeholders are not the same in every organization. Some people have very annoying stakeholders and some people have very pleasant stakeholders. So you're not going to meet the same everywhere. But when you come in as a business analyst, is being adaptable, being flexible, being open, and being agile in your way of working. Okay, so whatever solution you're doing, you need to also test it against your enterprise to make sure that it is fit for purpose, not just giving value to your end users, but giving value as a whole to your organization. Okay, so let's move on to, how you recommend actions to the solution as well. Okay, so, you've done everything, you found there are problems or everything works well. As a business analyst, we always recommend. There are many times that we recommend to our stakeholders or to our end users or something, or even to people that sign off the budgets. Because when you have a new project and people are not really clear on why they should do this, why should we do this project? Why should we commit £1 million? Then they ask you to go and do a business case. Then you do the business case, you find out, you do all your business analysis, you break down the process, you see everything, you define the roadmap to say, okay, this is how the solution should be built. Then you do your investment appraisal and all of those things. Now you recommend an action. You don't force it down their throat to say, you must do this, you must commit £1 million. No, You only recommend, you give them different options. If you do this, well, this is what you get. If you don't do it, well, heaven is not going to fall. This is what you get. So we always recommend a line of action for our end users. Okay, so you want to see, this is the potential value, this is the actual value, and then you recommend a course of action to align them. Okay, but in the context of evaluating a solution, it might be that there's a huge blocker to your solution. Sometimes we have to pack a project because there's one stakeholder that we just really, really need to get their buy-in. So we pack it until we get the green light. We continue our job on other projects, but that project is packing. But then you recommend, if you know the reasons why the stakeholder is not aligning to what you're doing, you can recommend a line of action, but you don't force it down anybody's throats. That's why business case is very, very important for us as business analysts. Okay, so your recommendation should show that the solution, you're going to increase value. Okay, not just recommending because you want to recommend. Even when you're recommending, you must always show that you've looked at alternatives as well. That's one thing we always do as business analysts. You have a new project, your organization don't know where to go or the next line of action. Then you do your analysis. You look at it. Should we buy a solution or should we build a solution? Now, if you buy a solution, do you have, based on your requirements, do they have something out there that is fit for purpose or not? Or do you need to customize? How much is customization going to cost you? Or would you just buy it off the shelf and it just works? Or do we need to get a developer again, get a business analyst, get a product manager, get a whole team and spend double money? So why don't you just build? If you're building, how soon do they need a solution? Do they need a solution tomorrow? Then you know that you can't build because it takes a lot for you to build, to get the environment ready and all of that. So these are things that we do in business analysis. We identify alternatives. Okay, so how quick is the feature required? How many users are we trying to deliver a solution to or deliver value to? So based on looking at that, we pick the important or the realistic way to go, and then we recommend it to the organization. Okay, so your recommendation should show that, something needs to be replaced or something needs to be retired. I told us about legacy systems. Now, this is a thing. It's something that I have seen over and over again. Organizations, a lot of these big organizations like NHS and Co., you'd realize that they have a lot of old systems that they want to turn off. And that's why it seems as if NHS has projects like back to back. They're always recruiting because there's so much. It's a very, of course, a very old organization. So they have a lot of solutions that are not fit for purpose or does not actually work for the end users. People are calling in. If you have a smooth journey, why should I need to call you to report something when I can just do it online, when you can automate the process for me, basically? Okay, so maybe you're recommending that they should replace the solution, retire a solution, or enhance. So sometimes we do our analysis and we don't need to build anything. The solution is not that bad. It just needs to be uplifted. Maybe the interface needs to be uplifted, or maybe a feature needs to be added. So it's not every time we build a solution, we just enhance an already existing solution. Get the team together. So if you do your analysis and you find out that this is the best way to go, then you recommend it to your organization and they make the decision. You come with strong evidence. You look at data, okay? And then you come with strong evidence on why you're recommending this way to go, all right? And then they come back to you and say, okay, we've taken your recommendation, or no, we considered it, but let's start from here. It's things we see. They don't always say yes to your recommendation. Okay, so part of your recommendation should also look at, the long-term effects. If you're building, that it will take nothing less than 2 years or a year and 6 months to come up with something, because you need to do analysis, you need to go into alpha, test out different options. What should we use? What should we not use? And then go into beta, where you actually deliver something into testing environments. and then you go into live. So what is the long-term effect of your recommendation, basically? And your stakeholders need to be on board to know why you're recommending the next line of action. Okay, so you always make sure that once you're recommending an action based on, because you're creating a new solution basically, and you want to make sure that value is realized, because that's the most important thing. Many job descriptions out there, you always see it, value realization, value realization. Every organization wants to realize value. You should be, whatever you're doing in a project should be adding up somewhere. Are you saving costs? Are you giving time back to staff? Okay, are you improving the well-being of staff? Have you reduced the amount of spreadsheets or manual workarounds? The operations, are they efficient, or is it worse than you met it? So these are some of the values that organizations want to realize when you deliver a solution. Okay, so I feel like I've been talking. Does anyone have any question? It's always good to ask questions for clarity. Does anyone have any question? Do you want me to take any parts, or do you all understand what we've talked about already?
Please know that you can unmute your mic and ask your questions.
Yeah, you can unmute your mic. Let me just go to the thing, because I feel like I've been talking. Does anyone have any question?
Sorry. Good evening,
Yeah, good
Coach.
evening.
Yeah, you've I've really, listened with rapt attention to everything you've been teaching. So I really want to ask this solution evaluation, is it for a BA alone, or it's for a solution architect? I think it's confusing for me, this particular term, solution evaluation.
Yes, so it's a BA task. Okay, so but the thing to understand is that different organizations use different people in different ways. So someone might have a solutions architect. Okay, so solutions architects might be looking at solution evaluation as well, how the solution fits into the big picture. But solution
Yeah.
evaluation is very much our task as BAs. Okay, you might work with your product manager, your product owner, even your project manager, to make sure that what you're doing is actually fit for purpose.
Okay, then at what stage this solution evaluation, it comes in at the planning stage, or what stage exactly?
So if you're using Agile, it can come in at any stage.
Time. Okay.
Yeah. So it could even be that you just gathered your requirements and you want to play it back to them to validate it. In a way, you're still evaluating that before you go to the next step. Am I in the right direction? And then when you're in alpha as well, remember I talked about the prototyping. It's just like a wireframe, when you do something that looks like what the final thing would look like. So that's also evaluating the solution at that point. And then as you keep moving in the stages, you evaluate as well before you deliver it into a live environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. I think Ismail's got his hand up. Let me stop sharing because it keeps looking like you're on mute, David.
Ismail, go for it. Yeah, your hand is up. Ask a question. Ismail, are you there?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm muted.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for the knowledge sharing. You talk about deployment approach, be it the pilot and big bang deployments into a live environment. What determines this approach within an organization's is there any determinants of to which approach to go by, be it the pilot or the big bang? Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that is very much organization specific, but as consultants, an organization can bring you in, and then when you consult from them, do your analysis, you advise them that, oh, you've been doing big bang, that's the reason why you're having problems. You need to try out doing things in pilots, doing things in small bits. That has happened within my organization as well. They're very used to doing a big bang approach, being a UK gov kind of thing. So they're very used to big bang, and sometimes we just end up with a lot of systems that are not fit for purpose. So now they have these new consultants that has, consulted with them and said, you know what, try this, and it's working out for them because they see that rather than spend £5 million doing something and doesn't actually work for your users. Now you do things in bits, you test it with your users feel like they have a voice in what you're doing, and based on the feedback, you iterate back on it and keep improving the service. Do you understand? So I'll say that it just depends. Some people still do. I've seen a lot of organizations that still do waterfall because they prefer it to agile. Okay, so are you clear, Ismail?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I think I've got Boluwaji.
Yes, Boluwaji, go for it.
Okay. Good evening, Ibiyemi. Thank you so much for the training. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. All right.
Loud and clear.
I remember you mentioned scalability when we are testing for this non-functional requirement. Now, my concern is that we have some organizations that have like this kind of large customer base, or probably they are projecting to have a large number of prospect or customer that will be probably making use of the new, probably maybe a new app or a new update on an existing maybe website or app. Now, and you said that if you are doing the testing, we cannot make use of all the users. You can just say maybe like 150 users to do your testing. But in scalability, how are you able to ensure that when this thing goes to real life environment, it will be able to cope with the number of users? Because it's not possible to make use all the users to do the testing. So how can you ensure that as a BA, especially when you have a large customer base as an organization? Thank you.
So I just need to get water. Sorry, 1 minute.
Okay, Boluwaji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yes. So can you just take the last part of your question again?
I think I heard him. Sorry, I had to get water. I was having my throat tingling.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yes, so I think I get what he's saying. He's saying, of course, we talked about scalability and how do you know that these are the amount of users you're going to get on your solution, and how do you make sure that you meet the scale, right? Boluwaji, I think that's your question.
Exactly.
Yeah. So based on your analysis, okay, as a business analyst for any solution you're doing, you would have an idea of how many users you're delivering to. If you look at Instagram, you'll be shocked that Instagram know the amount of users and they can forecast how many users they're going to get in 5 years. So organizations do all of these things. So we always have like people that work in the financial analysis thing. So they know how to forecast the amount of users. So we always do our analysis. So for example, I worked on a pilot and we worked on assumption that we're going to have 1,000 users for the pilots. So we did the testing, but we know that our users are going to be up to like 300,000. So we factor that in. So as you grow in your products, your developers are able to increase the scale for a project. And that's why scalability is done from the back end. You as a user, you cannot see it. You just know that the product is able to cater to you regardless of how many devices you use. So you look at Google Meet, for example, we might be like 1 million people at this time using this solution and it's not crashing. It works for us because we've been forecasted to say, okay, this is the amount of users we're going to have, and they build it into the project, so into the product from the back end. Do you understand?
Yes, very well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Any other questions?
Any other question?
So let's just, I think we're almost there. So yeah, in terms of evaluating your solution, there are different ways you can do it. Okay, you can do it by benchmarking, and this is, so when you're doing benchmarking, you're looking at what your competitors are doing, what is the standard, how would the other person do it. So imagine that you So let me give you an example. You say you're starting a new business, right? And you like how this your friend does it. You might be looking at how your friend is doing it, but your friend might not know. But you're watching them to say, oh, this is how they do. Okay. So he's doing well. He has customers. He has 1 million customers. I'm just starting. So then you have your team, you tell them, look out for Ibiyemi Enterprise because she does it well. I want to do it like the way she does it. So that is benchmarking, using your competitor to see, because they perform well, you love what they do. So you use it to benchmark against what you're doing. So we actually do that in business analysis and in product management. So many times within my organization, we speak to other people from other organizations that do the same kind of thing that we do. We just want to see, we're working on this project. We know you've done something like this in your organization. How did you do it? How did you work with it? We don't force them. We're trying to get some people to speak to one time and they were not responding to us. We were unable to speak to them, but we got some people to speak to. So it's always good to see what your competitors are doing. Go to their websites, go to, get information about them. How are they using this thing you're trying to do? So that it gives you an idea and how you can perform better when you're evaluating your solution. So you have something to evaluate against. Okay. So you also do decision analysis. Like I said, you have different options in your mind. You look at the advantages and the disadvantages of that option. Should I build? Should I buy? Okay. Should I do a pilot? Should I not do a pilot? If I do a pilot, have we got time? We need to deliver something next week. If I do a pilot, it's going to waste time. So it always depends on the sensitivities of your projects. And where we come in as business analysts is our flexibility, our being able to be agile to situations. You might be working in an organization and today they're using agile, but tomorrow they decide to use waterfall. You're not going to say, no, I don't know how to do it. No, that's where your being flexible comes in. Okay, so another way you can also evaluate a solution is by using focus groups or by using surveys. Okay, so surveys help you to get data from people. Sometimes you're on Instagram, they ask you, how is your experience? They ask you to fill a form, or you're on YouTube, you're trying to watch a video, they try to collect data from you. All of these things are ways that you gather feedback from end users. Okay, so what a focus group does is, this same people, they have the same thing they work on. So we put them in a group because we're going to get common themes, common ideas from this group. So we want to test it with them. So there are different reasons why you use different ways, but this is another way to evaluate your solution. You're presenting it back to your stakeholders to see what they think about it before moving on to the next stage. Okay, you can also, analyze the process within your solution to see, are there inefficiencies? What do I need to improve? So then once you know that, you know where to start from in your solution as well. So these are different ways that you can evaluate your solution. You can do it by benchmarking. That's by having someone you look up to, or a solution or a company within your community, but they do well, and then you benchmark against them to see how well your solution is doing. Or you can do decision analysis, based on the different options that I have. What are the merits and the drawbacks of why I should use the solution? Or should I use the solution in A, or should I use the solution in B? What is my next step? Okay. Then of course you can use any of the elicitation techniques. You can also, evaluate your solution by having interviews. You can have a one-to-one interview with me. I'm a very important stakeholder based on your stakeholder matrix or your stakeholder analysis. I can be a very important person. Then you have a one-to-one with me and you make me to test your solution, and then I give you my feedback. That is a way to evaluate your solution as well. Okay, you can also do it by surveys. You create like a Google form, you put the link to the solution in there, you collect data and you ask them to test it and they give you feedback. So these are different ways that you can evaluate your solution. Okay, I think, yeah, so definitely, like when you evaluate your solution, it's a way that you're paving, for future success and growth. As human beings, we want to succeed, we want to grow. And I guess that's why we're all here today, but we're finding a way for ourselves to grow and to gain success in what we do. So when you evaluate your solutions within your organization, you're making sure that the organization is growing. Little wins, by just creating one feature can really help an organization to grow. Imagine you work in a startup and you just have that one feature, and that one feature is what takes that startup blown. So these are different reasons why we should evaluate our solutions to make sure that we're trying to get there. In your personal life as well, you can evaluate yourself. You said you were going to become a business analyst in XYZ. How am I doing? I said I was going to do IIBA. Have I finished the BABOK book? How well am I doing? Do I need to read more things? So things like that are ways that we evaluate our personal life. And then when you start working as well, trust me, evaluation is just pretty much what we've discussed today. Is nothing extra. It's just evaluating to see that the solution is actually fit for purpose and it creates value for the organization. Okay, so I think that's the last slide. I don't know if anyone has still got any question. I try to keep to time, but I think we didn't do bad.
Okay. Saraya, you want to say something?
Uh, hello. Hello, Libby.
Ibi,
Libby.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. Mm, what kind of quality data actually we will get from the focus group? Can you
What kind of
explain?
quality data?
Data
Very
that we
today.
get from the focus group.
Yeah, so in that type of solution evaluation, you're after qualitative data, not really quantitative data. So someone giving you feedback, like you test with me, I give you feedback about a button or a feature. All of those things are quality data. So you use those feedback to iterate back on the solution and you make amendments on the solution to make sure that you're creating value. So it's a very powerful tool because you want to make sure that whatever you give to your end users are actually fit for purpose.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Buluwaji, your hand is still up. Do you want to ask any question? Do you have a question rather?
I think
Okay.
he's dropped his hand. So I think
Right.
Saranya as well as old hand, legacy hand.
Right. Um. Okay. Thank you very much, Ibiyemi. Thank you for this session. I've been writing and I've been learning, I've been gaining a lot, from all your session and what you've said so far. And also the way you were able to relate it, into real-time scenarios and the likes. And this is a bit of I would say leveraging on what we've discussed earlier. And now you came in with the icing on the cake, to give it that framework to flesh it out for us to, put another perspective to it. And majorly that is why I said that we need a professional to also come, take this session with us so that it won't be just myself, somebody else adding into the body of knowledge and also dishing out value. So that is really robust, and thank you for that. I really appreciate you for coming. I appreciate your time, and I hope you're gonna come again. So,
Yeah, no worries. I don't know why my throat is dealing with me today.
yeah, yeah. I hope to have you around again. So I hope there's no question. Okay. Now, so the next session. Oh, okay, Memsi. Yeah, Memsi saying thank you. Yes.
I was
So
just looking at the chat as well to see if there were any questions.
yeah, yeah. So our next session is coming up. That's the last series for this month. It's coming up on the just a minute. Yeah, on Thursday. So on Thursday is gonna be the last series for the guide itself. That's the BABOK guide, and yeah, you're welcome, Zainab. So hopefully we are looking at another facilitator to take that for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm happy to share the slides if
Okay.
anyone wants to. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll get that from. I'll make sure I get that from Ibiyemi. So we're gonna drop a link in the community, right? You can pick up the recorded session from there. So it's going to be on the website as well. So you can pick it up from there, or even watch on our YouTube channel, or you can also. So a quick one, Ibiyemi, how do they connect with you? Because I believe so much in networking and also connecting with professionals. How do you want people to connect with you?
Yeah, my LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, my LinkedIn is fine. I'm just gonna put the LinkedIn in. I think I put it now. Yeah,
Okay.
my full name. Yeah.
Okay. So you can follow Ibiyemi on LinkedIn. Ibiyemi Fasipe. Yeah. You can follow her on LinkedIn and you can connect with her. So this is just a privileged information for those that are on this call. Myself and Ibiyemi, because she's running a consulting firm as well. So Ibiyemi, this is from David's community to you. We have a partnership with another company that runs internship for BAs. So if you have people that wants to come for internship, you can just reach out to me and we'll take it from there. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, because we also do live projects on our course as well. So yeah, I think it's a good one.
Yeah. All right. So it's gonna be a wrap for tonight. I hope we've learned one or two things, and we'll see you on Thursday. That's the last series for this session. So thank you, Ibiyemi. Great to have you here.
No worries.
All right, everyone.